Get the ponytail out for this one. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. And today I really wanted to talk to you guys about the Elbaf arc. Now, obviously spoilers. I'm gonna try to be pretty light on spoilers. For the rest of it, I'm just gonna try to focus on Elbaf as much as I can. Because I feel like this arc by itself, stupid spam calls. This arc by itself is an important arc to kind of, it feels like to me a little bit like Egghead, where we're getting a lot of the backstory of how a lot of the government got started. And we are finding out kind of a lot about some of the mysteries are being slowly solved. I felt an ending to this, like, after we left Wano and how Egghead ended. Like, you can obviously tell that Oda is slowly getting to the end of the story. Do we know when the end's coming? No. I mean, I'm gonna expect probably in the next maybe couple years here, like, there is going to be an ending. It just kind of depends on how long, like, we stay in Elbaf. I mean, we're still in Elbaf. It's not that I'm, like, coming to you guys, oh, we're out of Elbaf, like, and I mean, Wano was 3 years, and that was three manga years. This wasn't, like, 3, even though, like, it was week to week, but this was 3 manga years, and Oda doesn't take many breaks. So, this is something that's really interesting is, like, how long are these last couple of arcs gonna be? Obviously there's an end. We can feel it. Obviously there's the battle of the emperors. We have to have that. So we have to have a Luffy and Shanks. I don't really think we're gonna fight Buggy. We might get, like, something to do with Mihawk and Zoro and then Crocodile, but I don't think it's really, I think it's really going to be something to do with the other two. Even though Buggy's the main guy, he's considered the emperor, like, it's definitely more a Mihawk and Crocodile that should actually have the title. It's not really Buggy, but we know how Buggy works at this point. So we have all that coming our way, and then we have obviously Teach, Blackbeard. That is stuff that we have, and then we have the main government itself. I think do we have the war and then, like, who's ever left, then that's who's gonna fight for the One Piece? Is that gonna be how it ends? I don't know. But anyway, Elbaf started off kind of weak. I did not like the Lego stuff. I found it, like, and I think when we're at this point of the story, I think as watchers, we just want go, go, go. Because we want to get to things that we're excited about and not linger on something that, to me, didn't matter for the overall story. And then you get past that, you get to Robin and Saul's reunion. That was so sweet. And I like how the anime did it because they really focused on that aspect of the story and they knew how important that was. That episode was really, really great. And I think probably one of the more important scenes that needed to be its own episode. Like, I think there's enough gravity to it that it needed to be its own episode. It needed to be done well. And I'm glad that they're taking the time with important story beats. And then the library and all that stuff. So we get past that. And then the thing with the kids, that was done really well. And then we go into a God Valley flashback. Now, is this something that could have been a whole side situation? Yes. It did not need to be in the manga itself. I don't know. But I always feel like the God Valley incident is so much of what makes a lot of these characters put in the situations that they're in. So we needed some way to incorporate it. I think if we didn't have... Of course, I really like the Brooke flashback too, but I think if we didn't have both flashbacks, it would have been fine. Because the Brooke one comes out of literally nowhere. I don't remember him ever really... This is the thing with Brooke's story, is because he is a skeleton, because of a devil fruit, his first backstory, we meet him at a level where he's already an adult. So when we're looking at his story, no, it's not complete, but do we need his childhood? And that was something, as much as I liked... I'm going to talk about Brooks, then I'm going to go talk about the God Valley, because I have so much to say about God Valley. But Brooks' backstory, if we didn't get his second backstory, and this is how I feel about how Oda's doing backstory for the main cast, is that some were done complete. Frankie, do not give me another backstory. I feel like I got the picture. Robin, we have her whole backstory. Now, would I like to see more adventures of her, with some other prior careers? Yes. I think some of those stories could be explored as side things. Nami, I don't think we need another backstory. I think we might get one, but do we need an extra one? No. But Brooke, I felt like Oda was like, you want to know about his childhood, right? I'm like, has he mentioned anything about his childhood? I don't really think so. I know about the Laboon stuff, and that's, to me, the most important thing about Brooke is Laboon. And then his old pirate crew dying. To me, that's the important part. So, I guess I needed that backstory because Oda told me so. But it just felt like it was out of nowhere, people. um, I hope they have like more of a transition. Like maybe they show some. I hate when the anime does this. Like they show scenes from like the same scene like 500 times. But I kind of need that for this section. I'm like, did he say something that I missed? Like, do I need to go back to Thriller Bark and rewatch it? Which I'm like, do I want to go through that emotional damage? I don't know. That is a personal choice for me. I mean, I will obviously do that when the remake comes out, but I don't know if I want to do that right now. So, you have that, but then you have the God Valley. And, man, did this just connect a whole bunch of characters together. We see, because it's Goldie Roger and it's Garp. You finally get to see them work together. And I feel this is where Oda just shines with this concept that he's had ever since the beginning. I'm glad they added this line to the live action of what is evil and who is good, who is evil, who is right, who is wrong. And you think it's such a clear line until it's not. And Garp having to fight with Roger is a very important, I think, aspect of this whole story. Because, and it's not only Garp's story and the impact it had on him, and losing both, like, you have to feel for Garp so bad because he loses both Goldie Roger and Ace. So it's not like he just loses one. Like, and a lot of it is his fault for following such a corrupt government. And the government, when you look at the Gold Valley incident, nobody's in the good. Like, when we watch Kuma's backstory of his side of the Gold Valley incident, or at least the start of, you're like, okay, so you have this section. You have Kuma. We got hints of how messed up his backstory was, but when we actually saw it, it's like, okay, I hate the Celestial Dragons more. Because how can we hate them more than what we have already decided that we hate them? I don't know. They just keep going down and down the hill. But then we see pirates working together with the government and vice versa. And we see how good Goldie Rogers' like crew is. Like, we see, and we finally get some of Shanks's backstory, which we really did need. We need, and then he has like a brother. Like, Oda sometimes, like, and I don't know, like, I feel like sometimes I'm like, okay, this makes sense. Like, this was hinted at, and then sometimes I'm like, Oda's just having a good time. And I feel like that was Oda's just good time. But him having a brother, like, and we kind of got the idea leading into this that his father was a celestial dragon, and a big part of the government. So it looks, and then the brothers growing up and them picking sides. But now we know why when he entered the war, everything stopped on both sides. Like, I think alone he is respected in the pirate era. You know, he's one of the few emperors that really means something. He is actually one of the few original emperors. And then you have, Luffy, and then you have Teach. Those are the three that I feel like if they enter a room, they have the respect to build. And obviously, I think Oda just loves Buggy, so he's just like trying to have a reason to keep Buggy around or something. I don't know what Oda's thing is with Buggy, but we start. Sorry, guys. When we're talking about like scenes that, like, obviously we know Shanks is a big deal, but we did not know how big of a deal, and now things make more sense. And then now I'm like wondering, like, okay, has there been situations where, like, it's been like not the brother or something, but I don't think that's the case, because Shanks and his twin brother are pretty separate. So I don't think that's the case. But then we see Rayleigh, and I am like, seeing him with the love of his life and like getting to see that was beautiful. Like, but you see so much of the impact that this situation has on so many characters. And we needed those threads, because stuff wasn't totally making sense. Because I sit there and I'm like, why did Garp let Goldie Roger do what he did? I mean, obviously Goldie Roger, based off of what we know, he was really sick and he was like, this is my end, I will go out this way. But, and then they were like, because you could tell in the scenes where they're reacting with each other, like, there's no bad blood between these two whatsoever. Like, I think Goldie Roger and Garp were loving the chase with each other. And then the God Valley incident happens and they feel like they need to work together now. And that's a lovely story, because I feel like the God Valley incident is going to reflect kind of how things are going to play out for the rest of the story, where how is Kobe going to deal with Luffy? because he is talking the big talk like he needs to take Luffy down. And I don't think he understands, like, Luffy being a pirate does not mean he's on the bad side. And I think the live action does this a little bit better than the original material, because what the live action has is so much material to look at. So, plus they have Oda, but they have so much material to look at that shows that aspect. And they could have thrown in that whole speech with Doflamingo in the live action. I don't know if we're gonna get the war arc. I would really love to see a Doflamingo in live action. He's like my favorite villain of One Piece. I think he's fantastic. But that speech that he gives just sums up all One Piece. And it's interesting because it's coming from a character we really don't know at that point. Because at that point, like, we know he's a warlord. That's it. But there's a thing about, like, comparing the war arc to the God Valley incident. And there's so much, like, hope in that situation too, because you have Goldie Roger right there. And I think he does a lot to try to make the situation better than what it was. And like, we're gonna get the Joy Boy comparisons. I feel like if Ace was alive, I feel like he would have taken his father's mantle. I think that vibe, because Ace felt kind of like Goldie Roger in a way, but felt like his own character in a way too. Oda loves to have reflections of characters. Or he would have been more like a Whitebeard, because that was his major influence. That was his major father figure, was Whitebeard, more than it was Roger, obviously. So he could have taken up that mantle. But basically, and I think this is a kind of a workup quote from Garp, is like, the new generation is being built as a reflection of the old one, but I'm not seeing, like, the Kainus, or you're not seeing, like, the evil part of the Marines. Like, you're seeing the good part of the Marines. And we saw a lot of these older Marines go through this God Valley incident. And it shapes the narrative a little bit differently about how they handle other situations. Because this God Valley incident was bad. Like, there was a lot of violence. You're fighting slavery, you're fighting the repression of, like, a group of people, and you can tell, like, these Marines are like, this is not what I'm fighting for is their freedom, and freedom for all, and they're not fighting for the celestial dragons. Like, Garp even says, like, there's a reason why I'm not higher than what I am, because I don't want to be near that. So there is that separation of, I am a Marine, I have power, but I don't want to be part of that. And you see that in the God Valley incident. Like, I feel like that is when you see the Marines separate from the ones that are more part of the, and you see the Revolutionary Army, like some of the older ones, fight too, and like, it's just, you see the heroes in such a villainous situation, and I feel like it's one of those things that's lightly hinted at. Like, Oda is like, when is my time to put this in the story? And I think there wasn't a good point in the story to put this in, to be honest. Like, there was, like, I feel like I would have liked, like, pieces, like, hinted at through the whole thing. Because I feel like we haven't even done Garp's backstory yet. I think this is what we're getting. I don't think we're gonna get any more about Garp. We see, like, a lot of Garp just through the eyes of Luffy, Ace, Sabo, and then Shanks, you know, because Garp's been through, like, so many of these characters' lives, because he hasn't retired yet. And, like, I think that's the thing about Garp is, like, he's never going to retire because his mission is never done. Because the government needs to shatter for him to be fully retired. I'm hoping he is able to. As far as we know, I think Garp is still alive. Like, so it's just the whole thing. And we hear the drums of revolution, but what does that really mean? Like, does that mean that we're going, at the end of all this, is the One Piece actually peace for everybody? Minus the Celestial Dragons. Like, and then I see, like, okay, is Emu, like, actually the real, like, threat, or is he kind of misunderstood? And we don't know that story. Like, we know he's been around for a long time. And we get the feelings that I can't remember what they are called. But we can tell, like, they've been around for a long time. And, like, we're getting clues about the gap. And I'm thinking we're gonna find out that it's gonna be a lot more complicated than what it is. Obviously, we know a little bit, like, there's an environmental factor. Thank you, Oda, for, adding that into your story. Oda added global warming to One Piece. We're all thankful. But there's aspects, and then I saw this picture, like, the other day, like, Robin knows more than she. Yeah, because Luffy just basically, every time he gets, like, a post to Laugh Tale or to, like, the next destination, he destroys it. You have Rayleigh that could tell you exactly what the One Piece is. Don't tell me. Like, and Rayleigh, it seems like there's always an essence of Goldie Rogers somewhere. And you have that with Rayleigh. Rayleigh's been such a big character. I don't think Crocus, which was the doctor, like, he's only with Laboom. We haven't seen much of an impact. And I think that's kind of what his character was. I think that was like his introduction. Like, he's there for Laboon. Laboon's gonna be some type of big. I think Laboon's gonna be bigger than just Brooke's backstory. Coming full circle. I think there's a lot more to that. Because you don't just have the doctor of Goldie Roger sitting on, like, a little island by himself for no reason. I think there's more to that. I don't know. Well, we made another one of Goldie Rogers' crew in Elbaf. He's married to the teacher. And we get to hear a little bit of that. But there's, like, because I think we always need that essence of Goldie Roger until it dies. And I think it's going to be kind of the same thing with the Straw Hats. Like, you're always going to have that essence of Luffy. And, like, those characters are always going to be around to help the next generation move forward. And I think that's really what the theme is making sure that either the new generation does the right thing and keeps doing the right thing, or if the new generation needs to fight, that there is somebody to help them move forward. And it's going to be interesting if Oda decides to kill anybody off. Now, I have my predictions. I think Usopp, we've already had an instance with him, like, separating himself from the crew. There's parts of me that's like, he is kind of the low man on the totem pole. He's not matching the strength. If we are having kind of hints of who might be joining, but it has to be 13. So if Loki is going to join the crew, now we have another powerful, like, we have the skill of more of, like, a lot more power. We have, like, power in the physical format, and then we have, like, knowledge is power. It's kind of a separation of the crew itself. So, knowledge is power. We have, like, Robin, Nami, Jinbei kind of goes into both. We have Frankie, because he built the boat. He makes the tools. We have Chopper. And then we have this power is power. So you have the Luffy, you have the Zoro, you have the Sanji. And then if you have Loki, you have Jinbei. Like, that are just powerhouses. And then you have, like, the solid, just has lived life, and, like, that's like your Brook. Usopp I would put as knowledge as power, because he knows how to make stuff. He's very creative in that way. But what is really gonna win this? And like, if you look at what we're up against in the next couple arcs, we are up to Teach. We are finally going that route. We are up. I think Shanks could go two different directions. Shanks could either be a bloodbath and like he really fights for being like king of the pirates, or he's going to Laughtail for another reason. And I think that's just might be to be there for Luffy, because in all honesty, I think we need the other three emperors to go against Teach. Even if the Straw Hats were at their strongest, they had their Grand Fleet. We know we have. I don't think Buggy, even with Mihawk and Crocodile, they themselves cannot fight Teach. And I think Teach is going to be one, if not the last foe. It depends on what order Oda decides to do all of this in. He could decide we fight the government, we get to Teach. All the pirate people fight Teach, and then we go against the government. Either way, I think we're going to need all three emperors to work together with whatever Marines is left. So, and with the Revolutionary Army to go against the government. That would make the most sense. Now, I think part of what we need against the government is probably on Laughtail. And then we're going to go against the government. And is that going to be something that's probably going to make some people mad? Because it's like, oh, okay, end of story. We know what the One Piece is. Okay. I don't think the One Piece is the most important part of this whole thing, even though it's called the One Piece. I think the One Piece is a tool. And we're going to have to use the weapons. Like the 4 major weapons, even though Luffy's not interested, I think those are going to have to come out against the government. I think they're just too strong. Like, I'm just trying to think of everything. I don't think. Part of me is like, Teach himself is scary, but I'm like, we haven't really seen the power of all his other crewmates. And that's my thing, is 3 emperors can take him out easily. Like, if that really is the case, which I think is probably what it's going to go down to, based off of how we look at the God Valley and then how we're going to move that forward. But I think Usopp needs to meet his dad. I think that's part of Usopp's story that we need to do. So I don't know if Shanks, like, they've already been in Elbaf. Like, I don't think so. There is gonna be a situation where I think Usopp's gonna have to make a sacrifice. I think Usopp might be one of the characters that we do not see to the end. Because of some stuff. Like, he's in the crew, but I think, especially with the Going Merry stuff, like, I feel like that has changed the dynamic between him and the rest of the crew when I look at it. Because, like, Robin did what she did for the crew. Like, she separated herself. Like, she knew what CP09 was, and she separated herself from the crew to protect the crew. Usopp really hasn't made the ultimate sacrifice like I think a warrior of the sea needs to really do. And then we have that scene with Zoro and Sanji. Like, Sanji's like, well, if I ever lose it again, so that tells me they are going to be in a situation like they were with Wano, where he is going to have to do something similar, and Zoro is going to have to take him out. Because I don't think any of the crew would have the heart to do it. And Zoro's one of those characters that, as much as we don't know about him, we know that he will do that. Like, if there comes to me a situation where he feels like Luffy's in danger, I think Luffy's definitely second right hand man, if not the most biggest supporter of Luffy. Even though he does give Luffy some of the hard... Oh my goodness. I've had 3, in this 41 minutes time frame, 3 spam calls. You don't know I record on my phone. But anyways, and there's a lot of reflection, like Rayleigh with Goldie Roger, Luffy with Zoro. Like, you can probably predict the ending of One Piece, minus what the One Piece is, by just taking that God Valley incident and then just reflecting it. So I'm expecting Boa to come back. I'm expecting we have a reunion of the 7 warlords. I think it has to happen. I think that was too important. Now the original. Now, I know we've lost some, but we still have Boa, we still have Crocodile, we still have Mihawk. Law technically was. Teach technically was. So that's gonna have to come back up. And then we have Buggy. So Moray, that he was one of them, but I don't think one of the most important ones. Doflamingo has to make a comeback. I don't see a world where we have the final war and we don't have Doflamingo. Now, we're going to have Doflamingo by himself, but there's no possible way we have the last little bit and he leaves Doflamingo down in the prison. They have to let him out. I think it's going to be a situation like with Crocodile, like, it's a means to an end, because we know how powerful Doflamingo is. And if somebody could go against Teach, it has to be Doflamingo. Obviously, if it's Luffy at the end, but I'm trying to think. I think we're going to have a Wano situation where he is going to be like Kaido, and there's going to be a lot of loss. A lot of losses before we get Teach down. Because he has... Teach, seriously, is probably, between his 2 devil fruits, probably the scariest devil fruit user. um, that we've seen so far. And the second one is probably Doflamingo. Even Big Mom, like, yeah, she's scary because she's a giant. Like, and that's kind of how I felt about Kaido too. Like, I think the reason why Kaido took so long is because he was a dragon. But neither one of them, like, and that was like something that, like, I found like interesting about the Warlord versus the two emperors that we find in Wano is the intelligence value. Like, Kaido and Big Mom, I think, knew what they wanted, but they didn't know how to get there. Where I think Doflamingo could take over, and he knows how. But if the pirates want to get in with the Celestial Dragons, they really do need a Celestial Dragon to get in there. And it's not, I don't think it's going to be a Celestial Dragon that's in there currently. No, it's gonna probably be Doflamingo that knows how to get back up to, I can't remember what their area is called, but he's definitely going to be a contributor factor. As much as like, I don't think the government wants to admit, or the few pirates that are left that have had to go against them, like, I don't think that's what anybody wants. So I know this has been a long video. I've been really liking the Elbaf arc, as you can tell. Like and subscribe. I'm hoping to be able to get back on my feet with this channel, get you guys videos on a more regular basis, and just get back to some normalcy. I'm hoping I will find my tripod here soon. I think this video is okay, but I will get back my normal setup. We'll keep on talking about One Piece. I know I haven't really been talking about One Piece is because I kind of went on a hiatus with it. And then I started reading the Elbaf arc, and then it got me back to where I like the series again. I think Egghead, I was like, okay. I like certain aspects of Egghead, like the aspects that I was like looking forward to once we knew kind of where it was going. But yeah, it's just we're getting to the end, and it's really exciting, but it's also really scary because One Piece is the last of the big three. It's like an era of anime is really ending once One Piece ends. And that's saying something because, I mean, we still have the 1,000-Year Blood War for Bleach. I guess we still have Boruto, but it doesn't compare to Naruto. As far as like the legacy of it. So like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.